What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be removing the valve cover on this S52 here. There are lots of reasons you would be removing the valve cover for doing cylinder head gaskets, checking cams, pulling cams, even as simple as just replacing the valve cover gasket. Those are a prime spot for vacuum leaks and oil leaks. So if you'll notice, I have the front end of my cooling system removed. You do not have to do that to remove the valve cover. I'm pulling the head on this car. So in order to do that, you do need to remove the cooling system, but for just removing the valve cover, you don't have to do that. If you notice, I have the upper section in the back removed. There is a video on that. If you go look at my intake manifold removal video, I'll put that in the description. It tells you how, and basically just removing the section back there gives you a lot more room to work towards the back of the valve cover, giving you more room for wrenches and tools. It makes the job a lot easier. Tools we're going to use: 3/8 drag ratchet, flathead screwdriver, 10mm socket, 8mm socket. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is get this plastic cover off. To do that, we're going to take the oil cap off, and then two 10mm bolts, one under here and one under here. If yours has little plastic covers right here, you can take a flathead screwdriver where these little lips are and just pop them off right there. Just like that, and then we can put the oil cap back on so we don't lose it. Now from here we're going to disconnect our coil packs. Those guys come up and then you just wiggle the bottom connector out just like that. Alright, and now taking our 10mm, we're just going to take off the coil packs. There's one bolt up here and one bolt on the bottom of them. Once you have the bolts out, to get it off, just grab it and sort of wiggle it up. We'll be kind of stuck because the coil boot is stuck onto the spark plug, but they'll come off eventually, just like that. And then if you don't want to lose your coil pack bolts, you can always just sort of tighten them back into place like that. Now we just got to take all 6 of them off. And once they're all off, we have these little tiny wires, one here, here, and one right here that we all need to get off. And these guys are all 8mm, and this guy right here. It's easiest if you use a smaller set of wrenches than a bigger ones, as it's kind of a tight space, and those guys come right off. Same thing for the ones on both corners. And then the little wire comes off with it. Now once those are off, we can remove the lowering wiring harness right here that has all of the coil pack wires. Basically you just take a flathead screwdriver and sort of pop it up all around. It should come up fairly easily. You can look on the lower side and see the tabs, and that just sort of pops up. You can either set it over on the side, or you can take it and unscrew it right here, and the whole wiring harness for the coil packs just comes up like that. And then the last thing we're going to remove is the crankcase ventilation hose right here. You'll see it has 2 ridges on both sides. You just squeeze them in and wiggle the hose out, and then it comes right off just like that. And now there's nothing attached to the valve cover, so we can go ahead and remove it. These are the bolts you're pulling off. They're actually 3 pieces. There's the actual bolt, there's the actual bolt itself, you have a seal, and you have a washer. Now I like to take them off, all 3. Sometimes when you pull it off, you'll get just the bolt, and the washer and the seal will get stuck in there. I have lost these before. When you pull the valve cover off, they just sort of fall out. So to make sure they're all together, I keep them as one. We're going to take a 10mm and start undoing these bolts. There are 4 up here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 back there. 1, 2, 3, 4 here. There are 4 in the middle. A lot of people forget about those. And then there are 3 up here by the vanos. So don't forget all of them. There are quite a few. And if you forget to undo one, then the whole thing won't come off. I always like to break them loose before I pull all the bolts off. And this is where removing this upper section is going to get very nice, because we can lift the harness up to get to these bolts on the underside here. So for that one, just the bolt came off. The seal and the washer are still in there. So what you can do is take a little tiny flathead screwdriver and sort of pop the seal and washer out like that. So then you have all of them together. Now this is one of the bolts, the valve cover bolts that had the 3 wires on it. You can see there's a thread up top, and that goes in like that. And the bolt sort of sits on top of it like that, and that's why we have to remove these wires first to get to the actual bolt on to remove the valve cover bolt. So there we are. We got all the valve cover bolts off. There are 15 bolts in total. 3 here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All 15. So once they're off, make sure you have everything disconnected, have your crankcase off, your wiring is off, and then you can just tap it a few times, and then the valve cover should just lift up. Some of them might get kind of stuck, so you might have to tap the side with a mallet to get it off. And the gasket might get stuck on there too, but then it just lifts off. There we go. That's it. Now the valve cover is off. So now here we have the underside of the valve cover. You have your spark plug gaskets right here and right here for all 3, and then you have the main valve cover gasket. And that guy just sort of pops up all the way around just like that. This is a fairly new gasket. As you can tell, it's still very rubbery and fresh. If your valve cover gasket hasn't been changed in a while, it's going to come off as like a hard plastic, and these might actually break when they're coming off. They won't be as smooth and rubbery, and if it is, you should replace it. As a rule of thumb, if you can't remember the last time you replaced your gaskets, you probably should replace them. And that's it. The valve cover is off. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep it fresh, and I'll see you guys later. So I got the valve cover off. Straight milk. Chocolate motherfucking milk. Look at that. Looks like Starbucks. It's my fucking motor oil. Something went and it's gonna be ugly. I don't know what it is, but